Good morning, rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. Glad and thankful to have you here. Thanks for being patient while we start a little bit late today. The bonus content was still cooking up this morning, but now it's ready, and Levin214 has already donated $10 before we started. So now you only have $50 more to go before the end of the show. Thank you very much to that. And thank you for my lovely wife, Stephanie. I got to give her a shout out. She might be listening to us on the road as she heads to a doctor's appointment this morning, but I had forgotten my coffee and I was just a sad man. But thankfully my wife, my pregnant wife, shows up this morning, drops off my coffee. I've got to give her a round of applause. I haven't had nearly enough founding flavors in my system just yet. Just some today over at apforlibertyshop.com, or there's no way you can. If we could sell wives like Stephanie over at the shop, I would be a millionaire. Oh, yeah. Is there any audio here happening? No? No audio? Hello? Hello? Roadcaster Pro 2. Looks like it's working. Bitchmobile, why you gotta scare me like that? Looks like the audio is popping up. I'm seeing it. What's happening? Yeah. It's Monday. You know how it is. We've still got lots of great content for you this morning. We're going to start to talk a little bit about the Northern Lights. The Aurora Borealis continues as the forecast calls for geomagnetic storm activity all the way into next week. It's been an incredible light show. We're going to get to talk about it. Of course, the conspiracy theories are already flying. It's the HAARP. The HAARP, the Jews, it was the Jews. Everything's the Jews, isn't it? Every conspiracy theory. Steffi has been so disappointed over the weekend, and so many of our friends, quote unquote friends, people that she thought that we were friends with online, because so many of them have turned into raging anti-Semites. She was really shocked and confused because Steffi used to kind of be a little bit of a conspiratard. And she was shocked to find out that so many conspiratard friends of ours, because we run in the libertarian community, so there's a lot of conspiratards, were so anti-Semitic. And she's like, wait a minute. She's like, what do you mean the Jews did 9/11? And I was just like, you didn't know, Stephanie, that you were responsible for 9/11? Were you dancing like the Israelis on 9/11? They were all in it. And I was like, Stephanie, how did you go so long watching Prison Planet and InfoWars and reading natural news and being a vegetarian and freaking out about the chemtrails in the sky? How did you go so long on all those conspiracies and you didn't realize that every single one of those conspiracies all goes back to the Jews? I mean, come on. It just made me laugh because Steffi's she's so sweet and innocent, and so she just doesn't realize that the Jews were behind everything. Just kidding. Blue Trike says, tell her Happy Mother's Day from the viewers. I will definitely do that. Thank you. And thank you to all the moms out there, the awesome moms. We had a great Mother's Day yesterday. We celebrated our very first one. Little Steffi, she got a sweet gift from me and from her mother, and some phone time with her family. And it's an unofficial Mother's Day, we call it, but we celebrated it because we know little Hazel's here with us, and we can't wait to meet her here just a little 2 months from now. We get to little baby Hazel coming into the world, our very first child. About time, many people would say. We had a wonderful day, and we hope that you have a good one as well. Okay, so we'll talk about the Aurora Borealis here in just a couple of minutes. I know Stephanie will be glad to hear that because we haven't had a chance to see it yet. We'll be glad to hear that it will continue on throughout this week. Have you ever wanted to punch an old lady? No? You've never wanted to do violence to a geriatric old lady? Well, you will after I show you today's video. 2 British environmental activists smash the case holding the Magna Carta. If you've never felt rage in your life, you will feel it today. At 7:30 today, after we talk about that, play that video, we're going to talk about Jerry Seinfeld. He had a walkout that was staged during his Duke University commencement speech because of his support for Israel, no. Not supporting Israel. No. Did you know Jerry Seinfeld did 9/11?
How dare you?
Maybe he didn't do it, but it was that Newman character.
No, God! No, God, please!
Steve Buscemi was randomly attacked on the street in New York City, but he voted for Democrats. So what do you get? What do you expect? At 8 o'clock this morning, John Miltimore is going to join us not in studio, but on the show. I see. I haven't had enough coffee yet. John Miltimore is going to talk to us this morning. I'm going to ask him about the Jerry Seinfeld walkout. And he wrote an article about a story that really caught my eye. I thought was interesting. And do we have any gamers out there in the audience? I'm kind of a gamer. Nerd. A Marxist professor's failed attempt to explain how socialism would deliver a PS5. John Miltimore wrote an article about a professor who was asked, how would a PS5 be delivered under socialism? So, great article, interesting conversation. We'll have it with John Miltimore at 8 o'clock this morning, senior content manager over there at the Foundation for Economic Education. Helping freedom as a gamer. What's up, my fellow gamer bros? I, like many others, got back into the Fallout series recently after watching the new show that they made over there on Amazon Prime, which was pretty darn good. And after jumping around from Fallout 76 to Fallout 3 to New Vegas, I finally settled on Fallout 4 because it's the one that is at least the most satisfying to me. What about you? What are you guys playing these days? At 8:30 a.m. Central today, we're going to speak to JD Too Chilly. It's too chilly. Experts wonder, is America truly in decline? Is the U.S. toast? Reports of the United States' demise have been greatly exaggerated for decades. But every human endeavor does eventually come to an end. Now, RAND, R-A-N-D, the granddaddy of think tanks, has a report out that takes for granted the decline of the United States and asks if it can be returned to its former glory. For those of us, living amidst the seemingly growing chaos here in the United States, it's a reminder that nothing is forever, except for perhaps the hubris of experts who see opportunity in a crisis. We will speak to JD Too Chilly on that subject this morning at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. It's going to be wonderful. It's just a shame that we don't have any. Donald Trump. For Trump. For Trump. Latino for Donald Trump. Trump leads in 5 key states as young and non-white voters express discontent with Biden. A new set of New York Times and Siena polls, including one with the Philadelphia Inquirer, reveals an erosion for support for the president among young and non-white voters upset about the economy and Gaza. For Donald Trump. Donald Trump leads President Biden in 5 crucial battleground states, according to the New York Times, of all people. Can you believe it? A survey shows that Trump was ahead among registered voters in a head-to-head matchup against Mr. Biden in Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. Mr. Biden led only among registered voters in only one battleground state, and that is Wisconsin. The race was closer among likely voters. Mr. Trump led in 5 states still, but Biden edged him out in Michigan, trailing only narrowly in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. So Biden had won all those states in 2020. Victories in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin would be enough for him to win a re-election if he won everywhere else that he did 4 years ago. So this is a hypothetical matchup that included minor party candidates and the independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who won an average of 10% of the vote across the 6 states and drew roughly equally from the 2 major party candidates. Roughly equally from the 2 major party candidates. I find that probably to be the most interesting factor in these polls. is that the RFK Jr. vote takes about the same from both sides. So, what do you guys think? Robert F. Kennedy Jr., more of a threat to Trump, more of a threat to Joe Biden? I mean, this, at least from the New York Times, it appears as if they believe that or at least what we're looking at is that Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump both have a problem with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So it'd be curious to see what the situation is with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Is he on the ballot in those battleground states? So assuming that he gets on the ballot in those states, that could be the deciding factor potentially. But I would think that he would take more from Joe Biden just based on the conventional wisdom. He did come from that party. There is that dissatisfaction. The thing is that if Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was more pro-Palestine, that would probably be the deciding factor. But since he's not a big pro-Palestine guy, I will say that that's probably the thing that is making it a factor for him to not to take equally from both sides. Because right now, Joe Biden faces a lot of problems on his left flank. The progressive activists and students on college campuses, these are the people who are leading the charge for from the left against Joe Biden. They're calling him Genocide Joe on the left. But Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on most issues is a pretty standard garden variety Democrat. There's not a lot of breathing room between him and Joe Biden on major issues like this. Take a listen.
But so to leave, so in other words, keeping it as is with Roe versus Wade having been overturned and leaving it up to the states to determine if and when a woman can have an abortion?
No, I wouldn't leave it to the states.
You wouldn't, right?
No, I would.
You would say completely. It's up to the woman.
My belief is we should leave it to the woman. We shouldn't have government involved.
Even if it's full term.
Even if it's full term.
Okay, and I think.
Okay, so
government involved.
Even if it's full term.
Even if it's full term.
Yeah, see, that's what abortions want. Abortions want. Democrats. Synonymous with abortion for sure. So at the end of this here, so they're talking about abortion. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Joe Biden, same on abortion. Here we have Robert F. Kennedy Jr. saying you shouldn't leave it up to the states. The federal government should mandate abortion on demand unilaterally, right? Top-down approach all the way up 9 months, right? This is the real Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
You would say completely. It's up to the woman.
My belief is we should leave it to the woman. We shouldn't have government involved.
Even if it's full term.
Even if it's full term.
Okay.
Even if it's full term. Oh, damn. Homicide. I saw a video the other day of this chick who was talking about how she had an abortion and the abortion was for twins. And this lady behind her over her shoulder said double homicide. Why are you laughing? Oh, funny. Yeah. So Robert F. Kennedy Jr., much more to the left. But the Kennedys, of course, they need abortions because, they probably they're impregnating a lot of mistresses and women that they don't want to have kids with. So that's the Kennedys for you. The Aurora Borealis. Why are all my things resetting here? I had some videos. Oh, no, not that one. Not that one yet. Wait, here we go. Yes. Okay. Have you guys seen the beautiful Aurora Borealis all over the world thanks to a solar storm? People are able to see the northern lights in places that you normally wouldn't be able to do so. Here we have a beautiful thread of places that the Aurora Borealis has been seen. Have you guys been able to see it from where you're at? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Send me a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. If you have a text, if you can text me a picture of that you took of the Aurora Borealis in your backyard. Let me know if you took a picture of it, and if you want to send it in, we can put it on the show. That would be really cool. Here we have a beautiful picture of the Aurora Borealis that was able to be seen in Tuscany, Austin. This is Monday. Tuscany, Italy. This is an awesome picture over London. The Aurora Borealis that can be seen from an airplane. You can see here, absolutely beautiful picture of the aurora over London. Here we see Bayern, Germany, a gorgeous aurora borealis, lovely picture. Of course, the lady probably gave the camera to Hans. It's like, Hans, take a picture of me now, schnell, schnell. Bayern, Germany, beautiful. Mont Saint-Michel, Mont Saint-Michel, by Mathieu Riverain. Gorgeous. Look at this. See the sun going down over there. This beautiful. Oh, wow. Look at that shooting star. Gorgeous. Over Mont Saint-Michel. Beautiful. Aurora borealis. Absolutely gorgeous. Here we have Dutch Windmills by Albert Dross. You can see right there. Albert says, what happened last night is something I thought was only a dream. The strongest aurora ever above the Dutch windmills. I still can't believe this was real. Captured after midnight in the Netherlands. Gorgeous. Look at that. Over the Dutch windmills. Switzerland by Matt Taylor. This looks like a Battlefield 5 map. Switzerland. Gorgeous. Look at this. Purple. Looks like the set of the Wake Up America show with those pinks and purples. Look at this. Absolutely gorgeous. Switzerland. The aurora and a meteor in the same shot by Tom Williams. Look at this gorgeous shot. Purples and pinks. The night sky. Absolutely gorgeous. Glastonbury tour. Beautiful aurora over the castle at Glastonbury. Gorgeous. San Francisco by Elliot McGuckin. Beautiful aurora borealis over the bridge. Gorgeous. A wedding rehearsal dinner blessed by the aurora. Look at this. Gorgeous. Now, if you were the wedding photographer and you got this shot with the bride, I mean, that's when tipping comes in. And Florida by Logan Parham. That's another gorgeous one. Very synthwave style from there. That's one that we would put in. That's the kind of thing that you'd put on like a background for the Wake Up America show. Ireland. Gorgeous. Beautiful photography. Oh, look at this. Over Stonehenge. The Aurora Borealis over Stonehenge. Cleveland, Ohio. Ooh, Joshua Tree by Bray Falls. Nice. Southern Ontario. Our Canadian friends got to get in on the action over there. Southern Ontario by Jason O'Young. I like the videos there. Turin, Italy. Berkshire, UK. Wow. Even over like highly populated areas, you would think that the lights from all the buildings would make it difficult to see. Look at that. Tucson, Arizona. Absolutely gorgeous. We had friends that drove like 3.5 hours, I think, to go and see like a really good view of the aurora. Gorgeous video from Tucson, Arizona, there with the cactus. Look at see that? Those are either, I don't think those are meteors. I think they're beautiful. You love to see it. Auroras lighting up night skies across the U.S. are becoming a free multi-day music festival for the eyes. Likely to return Saturday and Sunday, possibly into next week. In addition to the U.S., there have been reportings of sightings in Germany, Switzerland, England, and Spain. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration forecasters say the geomagnetic storm activity underlying the bursts of northern lights will likely return to full strength on Sunday. The latest forecast from the center have Earth-affecting geomagnetic storm activity taking place Monday and possibly into Tuesday. Severe and extreme geomagnetic storms were likely, says the NOAA. The storms are producing massive solar flaring in an area of sunspots that faces Earth. The geomagnetic impacts were likely to continue until that part of the sun rotates away, it said. Severe storm levels were expected yesterday, active to severe storm levels today, and unsettled to minor storm levels on Tuesday. So you still have a chance, if you haven't, to see the aurora borealis tonight and potentially tomorrow. I haven't seen any of them, but that's because they're like way past my bedtime. So what's happening here? This is, a scientific question. The solar activity accelerates electrons as they aim for Earth, and they ultimately collide with the nitrogen and the oxygen atoms and other molecules in the upper atmosphere. The collisions with the gases in the upper atmosphere create these wondrous colors of an aurora sky. Viewing area and timing in the United States, has generally been at the darkest point of the evenings. That's your best chance to see it. However, there have been some sightings that have occurred like in like just dusk, depending on where you are in the world. And if you'd like to see the aurora borealis, tonight might be your last best chance, although there is an opportunity potentially for this to be seen tomorrow. It's a phenomenon that's rarely able to be viewed in the United States, and if it is, then it's usually for people who are in the northern reaches of the continent, but the intensity of the geomagnetic storms has pushed the viewing area further south. There have been reports of sightings in Louisiana, Alabama, and even Mississippi. So the predominance of a dark new moon that began on May 7th could clear the stage once again for the northern lights to shine. The moon is about 1/5 full at this moment, but federal forecasters are saying that earthly storm activity, mostly rain, is expected to Sunday or to today. Potentially, we might see some more rain, or viewing might not be as easy as it has been, depending on the cloud cover. So, viewing of the aurora borealis is usually best on either side of midnight, roughly from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. So Monday viewing might be possible, but there have been scattered reports about what we're going to have in terms of weather here in mid-Missouri. So I don't know where you're at and what the potential for the storm might be where you're at. So let us know. Were you able to see the Northern Lights? I'd be very curious to hear from you guys. You can send us a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Let me know about the activity of the aurora borealis where you're at. And I'd love to see some pictures. If you took some, you can actually send us a text with some photos, and I'll be able to pull them up and share them with the rest of the audience. We'd love to see that. Nice to see Maria Edenbow here with us today. Joni Rankin, how are you, Joni? Quest Fanning, David Lee, Cecilia H., Blue Trike, Floby Tenderson, CC23, Midwest Gunner, nice to meet you, sir. Will Run Riot's hanging out with us, as well as Mommy. Hello, love to see you here. Robbie Thurman as well as Frickety. What's up, Frickety? Frickety frack. All right. We still got a lot more to go. I've got the Jerry Seinfeld commencement speech, but I've got to go do a quick download of my bonus content in case you guys unlock it, because I'm not ready to play it yet. But this week's theme, we don't know, because you only find out the theme of the week for our mini documentaries once you unlock the first bonus content of the week. So if we unlock today's bonus content of the week, either through Rumble Rants in the amount donation total in the amount of $60, or in purchases at apforlibertyshop.com in the amount of $60, then you know what the theme is. You see the first documentary, and now you would know the rest of the theme for the week. So I can't spoil it for you, but I've got to go download the bonus content real quick because it's been cooking up all morning getting ready for you guys. So I got to go take it out of the ovens. Okay, so let me go get the bonus content, pull it back. We got to raise $50 more by the end of the show if you want to see the bonus content. When we get back, we're going to talk about leftists staging a walkout on Duke University's campus with Jerry Seinfeld giving a commencement speech because he's a Jew. Jews. When we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Expanse of time, a year might seem like a mere moment, but oh, what a year it's been. In September 2022, Austin and Stephanie Peterson embarked on a journey to wake up America. They began humbly, with just 20 souls tuning in, learning, listening, and though challenges arose, like the looming shadow of YouTube demonetization, their spirit never waned. And now, thanks to you, thousands rise with the sun to join them, to listen, to engage, to be a part of a community. So here's to you, and to Wake Up America, for memories shared, for friends made, for the journey ahead, and for never, ever forgetting to rise and freedom. Happy anniversary.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Is the outdoor your home about as exciting as a library? Then spice it up and unbore your space with our custom metal signs. Crafted with love and a bit of libertarian magic, you can customize your own metal sign at ap4libertyshop.com. So head to ap4libertyshop.com, customize your own metal sign today.
Welcome to a world of vocal discovery at Peterson Voice Studio. I'm Justin Peterson, here to guide your musical journey. Envision a place where your voice reaches new heights, where every note tells a story. We embrace all singers, from the enthusiastic shower vocalists to aspiring stars, ensuring each voice finds its unique rhythm and tone. Are you ready to elevate your voice? Visit petersonvoicestudio.com and sign up for remote lessons tailored just for you. Let's begin this melodious journey together.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at ap4libertyshop.com. Right there is the Aurora cornealis. Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm Austin Peterson. Thanks so much for tuning in to the show. We're glad to have you here. The audio listeners to the podcast later are going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? Welcome to the Wake Up America show. We're glad to have you here. Don't forget, if you haven't already, click that like button and follow the channel. We'd love to have you be a regular guest on the Wake Up America show every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. The Wake Up America show streams live. You jokes just don't get much cornier than that. The Aurora cornealis. You love to see it. We have a lot of fun here over on the show. The Old Book Guy donated $20 already. What's up, Old Book Guy? Is that you, Roger? Roger, I think I know you. Appreciate you very much. Thanks for helping to unlock that bonus content. Remember, if we raise $60 by the end of the show, either in rants like my buddy Roger sent, or in purchases at ap4libertyshop.com, then you'll get to see today's mini documentary of bonus content. We don't even know what the theme is yet. Well, I know what it is, but you don't know what it is. All we have to do is raise $30 more by the end of the show, and you guys will be able to see the bonus content. Would you like to see it? Yeah, I think you would. Okay, Austin, don't dox yourself like that. Don't put that up on the screen. Oh, here we go. It's the other thing on the screen. Real quick, before we get back to the topics at hand, Steffi's new video debuts today. Yes. Our new series, Hustling and Homemaking, will premiere. Our new episode in the series for Hustling and Homemaking appears today at 9:05 a.m. Central. So as soon as the show is over today, at 9:05 a.m. Central. If you're watching us live, you're listening later, it's already up. The episode Bear versus Man is up. If Steffi were stuck in the woods, would she rather come across a bear or a man? You would think that that would be an obvious answer, but apparently to some people, it's not. This is just the latest in feminist foolery online, that bear versus man in the woods. Many women are out there saying, oh, I would much rather come across a 1,000-pound polar bear. I would rather come across a 600-pound grizzly bear. Oh, yes. Much more so than a man. Well, Steffi actually sat down and gave the matter some thought and used a little bit of statistical research and evidence to determine what would be in her best interests. So she put together a video today for you that will be available to watch live at 9:05. And of course, if you're a member of our locals community, as you can see, I do have it connected to our Rumble page right underneath the video you're watching right now. You are able to view Stephanie's hustling and homemaking videos a day earlier. So they get uploaded the night before. So if you want to get a chance to see Stephanie's videos before they're made available for the rest of the public, then make sure you join our locals page. Stephanie's new video, Bear versus Man, comes out does a live premiere at 9:05 a.m. Quest Fanning's on his way to the subway. Stay alive, Quest. Try not to get stabbed. All right, let's talk about the big news today. And what is the big news today, AP? You're so behind the ball today. Before I get to the big news, sorry, I know you guys hate when I do this, but we're going to talk about the Jerry Seinfeld Duke University commencement speech in just a moment. Criminal Bear in the chat says, women want us. Women want us. What can I say? This video just burned me up. Have you ever wanted to punch an 80 or 90-year-old woman? Boo! Wait, boo. Oh, well, you will now after this. These are two old environmental activist ladies smashing the glass above one of the only remaining copies of the Magna Carta. Or are you just going to film it unless you're with them?
This famous document is about the rule of
Yes,
law
can you come to...
and standing up against an
Yes,
abuse
I'm
of
receiving over.
power. Our government is
Can you
breaking
come
its
to Magna Carta,
own
please?
laws.
As a Christian,
Yes,
I am
yes, sir. Can you come to...
compelled to do all that I can
Can you stop doing that, please? Stop filming, please, eh?
to
I'm a Christian and I'm compelled to cook for the left because I am a gigantic, wretched, old, stinky, cobweb-covered vagina.
to do all that I can
Can you stop doing that, please? Stop filming, please, eh?
to
Oh, stop filming. Oh, please stop filming. Continue breaking the glass over one of the last remaining copies of one of the documents that set the standard for Western liberty, eventually culminating in the creation of the United States. Let this dumb bitch break into the hallowed case containing one of the few remaining copies left of the Magna Carta. But stop filming. Stop filming, please, sir. Don't film this. But continue your cultural desecration.
alleviate the appalling suffering that's
come to
coming
Magna
down
Carta,
the
over,
line
please.
and is here already.
And it's here already.
Whatever it takes.
What is
whatever
it?
the
Stop filming,
cost.
please. Can you stop doing that?
So we
Stop filming,
must
Stop doing
please.
that, please. Did you hear me?
just
Stop.
Yes, yes, sir. Can you come to Magna Carta over?
We must just stop
oil.
Glasses. Can you stop filming, please?
What are they doing? Okay, stop filming. Stop filming. Not stop desecrating cultural monuments. Not stop destroying everything. Okay, without the Magna Carta, these women would not have the right to speak in public about this. They would have been carted off and thrashed repeatedly with a stick Thank you to my brother Justin, who sent me this video this weekend. We appreciate my brother JP over oil. Yes, and as my brother stated in his angry rant when he sent this to me over the weekend, everything in their entire lives that they've been able to do has been because of oil, right? The makeup that they use to cover the festering sores on their geriatric faces made with oil, petroleum, right? Whenever they get a cold sore from their blisters from sucking too many British dicks, they need petroleum, and that came from oil. My brother says he sees this honestly, and his values go right out the door. No one does anything to stop them. That's just what is so incredible. These crones are the enemy of civilization. Shut up, you nasty, self-destructive crones. Repellent, shame. These women are in their 80s and they are hypnotized. Stop oil, robots. They've lived their whole lives on oil, their clothing, their transit. This is one of 4 copies of the Magna Carta that are left. It underpins Western democracy, the first challenge to the divine right of kings. This blossomed into our world that women like this are hell-bent on destroying. There's nothing maternal about this women. They are gorgons who would have turned the whole world to stone. They are Medusas. Thank you, Justin. Their sweatshirts that say "Just Stop Oil" are made from oil, most likely. Probably true. Thank you, Cecilia H. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson, where we fight back against the destruction of the landmarks that are the hallmarks of Western civilization. If you love America, you love the West, and you love freedom and liberty and limited government, you're in the right place. You're watching the Wake Up America show. And I am your host. I will be your guide through this 2-hour tour de force of economic freedom and personal liberty. We call it the Wake Up America show, and we stream live Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Make sure that you click that like button if you haven't done so already. And if you enjoy the content that you're seeing this morning, remember, we are 5 days a week, 7 to 9 a.m. Central. So make sure you set a calendar appointment. And when you click that follow button, you'll be able to find us easily, either on Rumble, on X.com, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, or, of the other half a dozen places that we stream the Wake Up America show in the mornings live. Let's talk a little bit about the Jerry Seinfeld story. He's a Jew. Dozens of students walked out on Duke University's commencement ceremony to protest Speaker Jerry Seinfeld over his support of Israel in the war in Gaza. Idiots. What can you do? Jerry Seinfeld. Some people reported seeing a large, portly fellow with glasses wearing a postal service uniform sneaking away after the protest. Was it Newman? Yes, it was. It was Newman. Video of the incident shows a group of students walking out of their seats and carrying a Palestinian flag as soon as the comedian and TV star was called to the stage. I've got the video here.
Jerry is also serving as our commencement speaker today. So, what's the big deal about our commencement speaker?
There you go. The attention of the protesters was quickly diverted by the cheering crowd who chanted, "Jerry, Jerry." It's a different Jerry, though. As Seinfeld would go on to give his speech and accept an honorary degree from Duke. Seinfeld appeared to receive support from the majority of the crowd. Once the cheers eased up, several boos and shouts of "Free Palestine" could be heard erupting throughout, though. I do have a little bit of Jerry Seinfeld's speech. Let's hear what he had to say.
Thank you. Oh my God, what a beautiful day. What a beautiful class.
Sorry, this is as loud as it gets.
I love you guys. I am here today at the gracious invitation of President Price and the Duke Board of Trustees because after spending 4 years at what is considered one of the finest institutions of higher education in the world, they apparently feel that perhaps some light entertainment will get you all to the final realization, you know, I think I've really had enough of this place. Let's bring in a comedian. Let's bring the sophistication and erudition of the Duke experience down a couple notches. And I thought maybe that does make sense. Maybe the thinking was what we really want is to just get these kids the hell out of here. What would give them that last final push? Because what you might not be fully aware of is that the entire time you have been at this wonderful university, we have been meeting and talking to other kids that we would like to replace you with. Not because we weren't happy with you, not at all. You have been great. It's just, you know, we wanted to see what's out there. I don't want to say exactly how many kids we talked to.
Now, the Jerry Seinfeld speech made a lot of news over the weekend, not just because of the walkout, but because of the jokes that he made during it. Jerry Seinfeld apologized for the, quote, sexual undertones in the Bee movie. But he says he would not change it. He says he made a cartoon movie about bees you may have watched as a child. If any of you felt slightly uncomfortable about the sexual undertones in the relationship between Barry the bee and Vanessa, the florist who saves his life, I would like to apologize for that now. Joni Rankin over the chat says she can't wait to see Unfrosted. Have watched it, can recommend. Not the funniest thing I've ever seen, but definitely entertaining, and it does have its moments. Seinfeld continued saying that the slightly uncomfortable feeling of awkward humor is okay. He said, it's not something you need to fix. Although Seinfeld admires the current generation for their ambitions to create a more just and inclusive society, and for not wanting to hurt other people's feelings, he advised the graduating class not to lose their sense of humor. Not a lot in life makes sense for you to be able to survive it without humor. In 2021, Seinfeld had to address the sexual undertones of the Bee movie when he made an appearance on The Tonight Show. He said, I apologize for what seems to be a certain uncomfortable sexual aspect of the Bee movie. He says, it was really not intentional, but after it came out, I realized this is really not appropriate for children because the bee seems to have a thing for the girl, and we really don't want to pursue that as an idea in children's entertainment. If it had been a gay bee going after a male bee, going after another male bee, would have even had to apologize? I guess, you know, an undertone of heterosexual love or of interest between a male and a female is probably really the problem that people had with it. I don't know. Maria, were you offended by the Bee movie? I didn't see Jerry Seinfeld's Bee movie. I typically don't watch kids' movies because I'm not a child, but I wonder what you think. Maria, you probably have some kids and watched it with your kids. Is it a movie that I could show to my child when my child is born here soon? I don't know. Love to hear your thoughts. Is the Bee movie inappropriate? Let us know. 573-319-1586 is the text line. Again, the text lines are open at 573-319-1586. Jerry Seinfeld's Duke commencement speech otherwise went off without a hitch. We're going to speak to John Miltimore here in a little bit less than 10 minutes about whether a Marxist professor who was asked the question of how socialism could deliver something like a PlayStation 5, which I think is funny. Want to hear your thoughts on that one. We're going to speak to John Miltimore at 8 a.m. and then at 8:30 a.m. Central Time, we're going to hear from JD Tuccilli to answer the question, is America truly in decline? Is the U.S. toast? We'll talk to JD Tuccilli from Reason Magazine this morning about that at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. We're halfway towards our goal of unlocking today's bonus content. I think you guys are going to be really excited, not only when you see the theme for this week's content, but when you see today's, which is rip-roaring and badass. So we're halfway towards the $60 goal. If by the end of the show today, we've raised at least $60, either in straight up donations through Rumble or YouTube or what have you, or if you make a purchase at apforlibertyshop.com, which I highly recommend that you do. Today, we've got a brand new product that I produced over at apforlibertyshop.com. Did you guys see it over the Javier Milei synthwave? So Chainsaw of Freedom. There we go. Check this out. I made this over the weekend. Highly recommend. Chainsaw of Freedom, Javier Milei synthwave tee. Comes in a variety of colors. You've got his signature chainsaw picture of him right there with his slogan, Viva la Libertad, carajo, with an awesome synthwave style. So you can get that. All we got to do is sell one of them, one Javier Milei t-shirt this morning by the end of the show, and that will unlock today's bonus content. Don't you want to see it? I know you do. So make sure you visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's AP, the number 4, apforlibertyshop.com, and we'd be glad to have you there. We've got a couple of people who are joining us over on the chat that are offering some excellent comments. You can offer yours as well. But don't forget that we want to raise that $60 by the end of the show, and you guys will get to see today's bonus content, which is sweet and badass. Okay, we've got 5 minutes till John Miltimore joins us. We're going to go get John. We're going to ask him the question, how would socialism produce a PlayStation 5? Could it? Talk to him about that and many more things when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
The Cantina crew, this is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors, what would I do? If no.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. We're glad and thankful to have you here. Do us a favor, click that like button on the feed if you haven't already. Follow the channel. We'd love to have you watch the show on the regs. That's Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. The Wake Up America show streams live. It's been tremendous to see how well the audience responds to our content. It's been fantastic for all of the support that we've gotten from our listeners, Rumble Rants, donations, monthly sponsors, and of course our friends over at Preserve Gold who are sponsoring the show this month that we are super grateful for. We're definitely going to hear a little bit more about them later. It's a monument to capitalism. It's not quite a PlayStation 5, but it's pretty darn close. A Marxist professor was asked to explain how socialism would deliver a PlayStation 5. Well, I'm still working on the old generation. I'm playing Fallout 4 on my Xbox One. Don't feel bad for me. I've got a lot of things to do anyway. I don't need to be playing video games. I was trying to spend a little time with my family this weekend. It was Mother's Day after all. Joining us now to talk about how socialism could deliver a PS5. Spoiler alert, it can't. Is the content editor for the Foundation for Economic Education, John Miltimore, joining us live. Senior content editor. How are you doing, John?
Hey, I'm doing great, AP. Hopefully you had a nice Mother's Day yesterday.
Yes, I did. Thank you very much. Word to your mother. John, great piece you wrote over at the Foundation for Economic Education. What's this story?
You know, Richard Wolff had an interview with Destiny a while back, and he tried to explain. Somebody in the audience said, "How, would I still have my PS5 under your, program of worker cooperatives?" And he said, "Absolutely, but you'd have to struggle for it a bit, and you'd have to, get it democratically and consult with your fellow workers and measure your desire for PlayStation against their desire for this and that." And it was just an awful answer. And it really shows to me that Wolff doesn't understand how innovation works or how products are brought to market. And, I had fun looking back at the history of Atari. Like I started my gaming on Atari, and boy, when we got one, it was like a whole new world. Atari at the time was huge. It had about 80% of the market share. But you look at those games today, they were awful. And you say, how did we get to a PS5? Well, there's a whole lot of blood and carnage and creative destruction along the way that other people, said, no, I want to get market share too. And they started making their own systems, but they weren't very good. And you had a gaming recession that ended with Nintendo. Now the king player, Nintendo lasted for a while. But all the things that go into this, none of that dynamism is present in a socialist system. If you look, socialists hate that process. They look at that as bad and destructive. And if you look at Wolff, he doesn't talk about pricing at all. And if you go back to Atari, Atari could have made a better system. Like they could have had a system with more memory and better graphics even. But they said, no, we got to sell this to people. We got to market this. And so they didn't go. Memory was expensive at the time. And they realized we have to serve a consumer. And that's how these things developed. And central planners don't approach things that way. They say, okay, I want this, I'm going to make this. And they're not looking at prices. They're not looking at profits. And that is what drives innovation. And Richard Wolff really whiffed on that answer. I'd like to see it, now if he has a better answer now. I don't think he does.
I've got the clip pulled up right now. It's 40 seconds long. Let me just play it real quick, John.
Final question to you, Professor Wolff. Under your system of worker cooperatives, would I still get my PlayStation 5?
Absolutely. You'd have to struggle a little bit for it. You'd have to talk to your fellow workers. You'd have to talk about the distribution of income. You'd have to compare your desire for PlayStation against all the other interests of all the other people. It wouldn't be something you worked out on your own with your particular boss. In any way, it would have to be a democratic decision. You'd have to come to terms with that the way you do with democratic decisions now in our society to the extent that we have them.
He says, absolutely, you can get a PS5. It's not something you could work out directly with your boss. You'd have to weigh your needs against theirs. I'm trying to picture like people starving to death, waiting in bread lines, and somebody being like, I know you really want bread, but I could really use a PS5. And then everybody going collectively, oh, okay, let's get off the bread lines and go and create a PlayStation 5. These people are ridiculous. Do you think that they even know how ridiculous they sound?
I think many of them might be vaguely aware, but they don't let that get in the way of their own ideology. And it's funny if you look, the Soviets had a gaming system too. Like there was games being developed. They were just really awful,
They did
and they
make
were still expensive.
Tetris.
Hey, they did make Tetris. Yeah, no, that's a good point. So they had games being developed. But when the Cold War ended and the Berlin Wall was coming down, like they were basically, they had a knockoff of Nintendo. They were just developing kind of a system that was similar that they kind of ripped off. There wasn't a process of innovation like we have here, and that's how you go from Atari to Nintendo to Sega to Xbox to PlayStation. Like everyone is fighting for their market share to please the consumer, and the consumer decides like, oh no, this is better. I will pay that because it's that good, and that's a system that we have. And your PS5, your Xbox, these things didn't come by accident. Like this was creative destruction. It's a great story about how this steady path to improvement in gaming, which is, there's a lot of things we can complain about today in society, right? The American system has its problems, but we are still seeing all this market development and exciting, innovation in places like tech.
If you're just tuning in to the Wake Up America show, I'm speaking to John Miltimore from the Foundation for Economic Education about the question of whether or not socialism would be able to produce a PS5. A Marxist professor was asked that question. He says you'd have to compare your desire for PlayStation against all the other interests of all the other people. And therein lies the problem, doesn't it, John, in that we have to, in a socialist society, you have to ask for permission from other people in order to do something. And the bureaucracy is almost always going to say no. The thing about capitalism that is so great is that typically, other than the licensing regulations, which is sort of like the Marxism in our society, typically, if you want to do something, you just go out there and do it. It's like when I started apforlibertyshop.com, I didn't go ask anybody for permission. I didn't have to do that. I just set up shop, started myself in business. Okay, to be fair, I did have to go get a business license from Jay Ashcroft, the Secretary of State of Missouri, but he did give it to me. But I started it before I even applied for the license.
I mean, what you're describing there is the decentralized, capitalist system, right? And that's where innovation comes from. I was going to make a joke like, oh, there's people that probably think you should have had to go get a license to do what you're doing, and I'm actually pretty shocked that you did have to get a license for that. Like it's a podcast, right? Like there's no reason you should need permission from someone to do that, and maybe it's pro forma, right? But no, that is, you're right. We don't have to ask permission. And in capitalism, in a free market system, what you have are people that are going their own path. They're innovating versus a bunch of bureaucrats and central planners deciding, well, what we should really do is make this, or we need this. Think about, committees you've been on in your life. Like, does anything good ever come from committees? I know that they have to exist. Like, you need to have them for some things. But the more involved they are, the worse things get. And that is what capitalism is not. It's not by committee. It's done by entrepreneurs who see opportunities and say, I'm going to build this and create this and sell it to people. And all in the pursuit of profit, the consumer wins and the entrepreneur wins. And there is failure along the way. Like that is part of the story. Like not everybody, by taking their capital, putting it at risk, trying to develop, some fail, right? But that's part of of capitalism as well. You need failure.
Yeah, the thing about the license is that the way that the states, the many states operate because of sales tax obligations, it used to be that you could sell things on the internet and you didn't have to charge sales taxes at all. You used to be able to do that. And when I founded apforlibertyshop.com a little over a year and a half ago, I was just selling little Buddhas, little plastic Buddhas that I 3D printed all across the country. But I achieved this thing, what they call economic nexus. And that essentially means that once I sell a certain amount of product in a state, then their sales tax obligations start to add up. And like I suddenly went from having to learn how to run a business to having to learn how to navigate tax law. So I started taking like probably a third of the time that I would spend like actually servicing my customers, a third of the time that I spent is just figuring out how to ensure that I'm not going to get arrested. How can I continue to sell plastic Buddhas, Javier Milei t-shirts, sell sneakers, ship and sell sneakers to Japan? I had to go through this process, and this is actually international. I had to go through this process the other day where I had a customer who wanted to buy a shirt of mine, and they lived in Germany. And the shirt that I buy is coming from it was like somewhere else in Europe. It was my supplier. So I couldn't have the supplier ship the shirt directly to Germany because the tariffs and the export laws are so egregious that they don't want to do all the paperwork. So I said to my customer, "Okay, I'll do it." I was like, "I'll ship the shirt to me first, and then I will ship it to you directly." Never mind all the egregious costs that this starts to overrun. It started becoming like a $25 process of shipping in order to get it to me and then get it to Germany. I had to fill out this whole bill of lading. What is in this? I mean, as soon as you start to try and send anything within the European Union, they're like, preventing the sales of goods and services. Argentina had a lot of this up until recently. It's starting to become a little bit easier to sell products there. But I mean, like, socialism, Marxism, like, this is their entire goal, is to prevent us from being able to engage in voluntary, peaceful trades. They don't want to sell in t-shirts to each other. They don't want to sell in little plastic Buddhas, unless, of course, you pay them, right? That's what it's really all about. Extortion.
Is the heart of the system.
Extortion.
Yep. Control is the heart of the system. And what you're talking about reminds me, I'm working on a separate story right now on net neutrality, which is back. And if you look at the amazing innovation we've had in the internet space over the last 20, 25 years.
There, John?
A lot of that was the result of, can you hear me?
Yeah, continue.
Okay. Yeah, like we took a very laissez-faire approach intentionally. And you talk about not paying the taxes originally. Like that was all part of, we wanted the internet industry to flourish. So we didn't have this big regulatory regime. You could sell stuff without taxes. And all of that led to the most vibrant internet service, in the world. And then they decided, you know what, like, we can't really have that. And that's when you have net neutrality come on. They want to control it. But and you had all that fear mongering, said, oh, if we do this, the internet will collapse. It wasn't about that, because since net neutrality has been repealed, internet speeds have exploded. Investment in internet has exploded. Internet is cheaper than ever. This was never about saving the internet. They do want to control it, and this is a way to control the internet, a step towards it's a public utility that needs to be regulated. And if you do that, they're gonna not just control it. You're going to see internet service decline. Look at other utilities. Like it's the lack of innovation is what really makes those stand out. So keep your eye on where net neutrality goes. Hopefully, this loses in courts. But exactly what you're talking about. The ability to sell across. We want a free, internet to be able to entrepreneurs, countless entrepreneurs like yourself depend on this. And the more we give control to the government on this front, we're going to see, all that innovation is going to go to the wayside.
What's fascinating too is that, I basically am, almost zero carbon emissions. I do have to drive to the studio here in the morning, but for the most part, 80% of my business is conducted in my house without having to go anywhere or, do all these expensive processes in order to do business. And of course, I have to pay a self-employment tax for the privilege of not going and working for someone. Our friend Cece over in the live stream says they want to keep the little guy down and poor. Yeah, there's no situation in which they allow you to escape the level of taxation. Well, I pay sales taxes, I pay payroll taxes, I pay income taxes, I pay self-employment taxes. I pay. It's the more I do, and the more like I try and break out of poverty, or even try and break out of the middle class into the upper middle class, the more the government regulations come down to prevent people like you and I from being able to lift ourselves up into the next socioeconomic status. Because let's face it, whether it's entrepreneurism, or whether it's school choice, or other issues, that the top class, the upper crust, They don't want competition in the marketplace, and they don't want our dirty little middle-class kids going to their upper-class private schools, do they?
No, what you're describing, it reminds me of like the Matrix, right? Like in the Matrix 1, when Neo's in this system, and like it's all these trapped human beings that are keeping the Matrix supported, right? Like they're feeding this system that kind of rules over them. That's how you feel a little bit. Like the system is designed to feed off of us, instead of we forgot that government from the very beginning was looked at as a necessary evil at best, right? Like we had to have it so people didn't run around killing each other. We need to have some sort of system. Well, now the system is a Leviathan, and it feeds off of us, and they find every way to tax us and to regulate us, and to really prevent success at every turn.
One last thing, one last topic here, John. I know that you didn't have a chance to see Jerry Seinfeld's commencement speech he gave over the weekend. He had to. Did you see the B movie that he did
years ago? I liked B movie.
Okay, so apparently he had to complain, or he had to apologize because of the sexual undertones in B movie between the two characters. Did you get that from the movie?
I don't remember any sexual overtones or undertones or anything in B movie.
Okay, good to know, because apparently he's had to apologize for it more than once.
Good heavens.
But I wonder what your thoughts are on Jerry Seinfeld. He's been having a lot of conversations publicly lately about how the left has killed comedy, about how woke has killed comedy, that we can't really make jokes anymore. Then he goes and apologizes for something like that, which I don't know. But I mean, I wonder what your thoughts are on some of the statements that Jerry Seinfeld has been making about how the left is like kind of killing comedy.
Seinfeld has screw you money, right? That's a polite way of putting it. And that means he can say what he wants. He doesn't need, other people's permission, or he's not worried about a studio canceling him or something. I think he's just being honest in a way few, people in Hollywood or like the larger industry can. And I think for years this has been a bug for him. He's seen, friends of his who've been canceled. He's experienced, the comedian tours, especially on campuses where there's sort of this zealotry about humor. Like he's just trying to make jokes. And Jerry Seinfeld's comedy has never been very raw, right? It's pretty white glove stuff. And if he can't go perform on campuses, like there's a problem with that. And I think he's just pissed off about this stuff. I think he's just being as honest as he can. I don't think he's an overly political guy even, but he sees where the culture is. In sort of this oppressive culture for artists, right? Like who, you can't make a show if you don't do this, or we got to put your script through 5 different committees here to make sure we don't, offend someone. He doesn't like that. He's a comedian. He's an artist. And it's a really oppressive culture to be a comedian and an artist in right now. So he's speaking out.
I'm glad to hear that you're on the side of free speech. John, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners or plug before we let you go today?
No, just can encourage everyone to go check out that article on the PS5 at fee.org, and I'm available on Substack at The Take by John Miltimore.
The Take by John Miltimore. John, we appreciate you. Thanks for joining us for your regular Mondays with Miltimore. We're very grateful to have you here. We'll look forward to seeing you again next week.
Appreciate you, AP. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you. All right. Well, the Wake Up America show this month has been brought to you in part by our friends over at Preserve Gold. Thanks to our friends over at Preserve Gold, we have been... Ooh, is that the right song? Can you hear my plea? Might be a little bit too loud there. The Taxation is Theft song. Many of us know, if we are true libertarians, which I can see, I'm not a real libertarian over there in the chat this morning. Well, if you don't own gold, you're not a real libertarian. My friends over at Preserve the Gold this month are taking a month to sponsor the Wake Up America show, to test the audience for the Wake Up America show, to see if you all are interested in investing in gold and silver. If you've been paying attention to what's happening at the Federal Reserve, their inflationary monetary policy doesn't seem to stand any chance of abating anytime soon, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat. One thing's for sure. Inflation is a constant fight that we as libertarians have to fight against to protect our income. If you're saving money under the mattress, you're losing money due to the inflationary policies coming out of the Federal Reserve. My friends at Preserve Gold right now will give you a $500 account credit. Just by signing up for their text message alerts, you'll get a free gold and silver information packet and learn how to invest in precious metals. If you text the word Liberty to 50505, that's Liberty to 50505. If Preserve Gold continues their investment in the Wake Up America show over the long term, you're going to see some incredible changes around here. We're going to start to produce more content that you could ever watch in a day. My dream to build a libertarian media network will come true thanks to people like you, just by securing your financial freedom. And the cornerstone of any good portfolio, of course, is gold and silver. Text the word Liberty to 50505. That's Liberty to 50505. Thank you. Hooray for the crowd. There we go. Hooray. In the digital dawn where the dreams are drawn, wake up America with Austin Peterson's on. So we are $30 towards our $60 goal. And remember, if we don't raise the $60 by the end of the show, that means that the mini documentary goes away forever.
Oh, God!
I know.
No, God, please, no! No!
This week's theme, we don't even know. So if you would like to find out what this week's bonus content theme is today, we've got to unlock the mini documentary. My recommendation is to head over to apforlibertyshop.com and make a qualifying purchase. Any purchase over there counts towards the $60 goal. If we raise at least $60 by the end of the show, you will get to see today's bonus content, our mini documentary. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you think about it when you get to watch it, because I'm sure you will. We have a completely unbroken streak of bonus documentaries that have been unlocked. So let's not let today be the day that it doesn't happen. And did you guys see that Steve Buscemi, the star of Boardwalk Empire? I mean, famously, I knew the first time I ever saw Steve Buscemi was in Billy Madison when he played that killer guy that shot the principal, or shot the bad guy at the very end of the movie. But Steve Buscemi was punched by a maniac in a random attack in New York City. Seems nobody is safe in the Big Apple these days. You guys remember when it happened to the actor from Ghostbusters? Was it Rick Moranis? Yeah, I believe so. Buscemi, 66 years old, was strolling through Kips Bay last week when a guy just walked up and hit him right in the middle of the day. The actor suffered swelling to his face and in his left eye, and the deranged assailant took off, still on the lam. Nobody knows where he's at yet. They did manage to get a photograph of the guy. He was assaulted in Midtown Manhattan, another victim of a random act of violence in New York City. Right now he's okay. He appreciates everyone's well wishes. And it happened on last Wednesday at 11 a.m. in the morning. I mean, it's a scary place in New York City these days. Actually, I have the picture of the assailant. Let me see if I can pull that up for you guys so that you can view it. Give me just a second here. Right there. Boom. Let's pull that up. There we go. Boardwalk Empire Steve Buscemi. Yeah, you guys know Steve Buscemi. Here he is. Right. This is the guy. I mean, that dude's, I'm not saying he's jacked or anything like that. He's definitely in a little bit better shape than I am right now. But I mean, a guy like that's that big, and apparently he hit him with a rock, hits you. I mean, you could die. You could easily die from something like that. These kinds of attacks, these random attacks are becoming more common. I was actually surprised that he did it to a man, because typically these kinds of attacks, they attack, Asian women, or just women in general. There have been all these videos, these TikTok videos of women who have been posting their violent assaults. Right after they get punched in the face, they immediately go to turn on TikTok. And it's happening now it happened to Rick Moranis. It's happened to Steve Buscemi. I mean, the simple fact, I know there's a lot of celebrities who live in New York City anyway, but the simple fact that so many celebrities are also getting assaulted, I'm sure that this guy didn't recognize him, just saw he was like kind of an old man and attacked him like that. The sheer fact that this is happening to so many celebrities means that the total number of violent crimes have been picking up. I wonder what your thoughts are. You can send us a text on this at 573-319-1586. Again, the text lines are open, and you can send us a text at 573-319-1586. 1586. Crime has been getting out of control for quite some time, but it really picked up during the pandemic. And with Rick Moranis and so many other Hollywood stars that have been assaulted on the streets of Brooklyn, you would think that, they'll finally do something about it, but who knows? Jonathan Swiftis over on the Rumble comments section dropped a link this morning, and he says, do Seinfeld's liberal character actors now regret their stands? Julia Louis-Dreyfus and many others taking a stand for the left. Yeah, Steve Buscemi as well, another Democrat voter, saying that he voted for Joe Biden. It's just a wonder that they don't see the cause and effect between the Democrats that they support and the violence that gets done to them on the streets with these leftist district attorneys who catch and release these guys on the street. I bet you if they even caught that guy, he would probably be back out on the streets in the next day. Love to hear your thoughts on this or many other things. Is the United States in a state of decline? J.D. Tuccilli writes in Reason magazine. Yes? No? Maybe so? Let us know. We'll hear from J.D. Tuccilli about the fall of the American experiment when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. It was 1946. A battle was fought, not overseas, but right here on American soil. The Battle of Athens, an intense struggle against election fraud and for the rights promised by our founding fathers. Driven by the Second Amendment, ordinary citizens stood tall and fought back. Help us expose this momentous battle of integrity and bravery. Your support can make a difference. Visit givesendgo.com/bleedamerican and pledge your support, because we believe in the power of truth, the strength of unity, and the spirit of we the people. Let us not forget, we bleed American.
Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Thank you for patiently waiting. We're glad and grateful to have you here. If you haven't already, make sure you click the like button on the feed. And if you're enjoying the content and today's your first time watching and listening to the Wake Up America show, just a reminder, the show streams live Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. It's a 2-hour Liberty tour de force. We'd be glad to have you join us regularly. Make sure you set your calendar so that you know when to start the show here at rumble.com/AP for Liberty. We're also streaming over on X.com, as well as over on YouTube, Facebook, and many other fine social media platforms that still allow at least a modicum of free speech. I see about 700 people joining us live over on X.com. That platform has quickly become the platform.
Austin, I'm getting garbled sound.
Joining us live now here on the chat is JD Tuchili from Reason Magazine. JD, are you there? Can you hear us okay?
I can. A little sound glitch there, but we're good now.
Okay, JD, we're glad to have you here. You wrote a great piece in Reason Magazine. This is kind of the topic in libertarian and conservative or right-wing populist circles these days. Is America truly in decline? I guess I'll just give you the floor. Are we?
You know, that's a great question. I mean, this is not a new question either. In my piece, I referenced a 1979 movie called Americathon. And anybody who remembers those days, remember President Jimmy Carter talking about malaise. The same year, they put out this movie, Americathon. It was a comedy about the U.S. trying to save itself with a televised fundraiser hosted by a Jerry Lewis type. I mean, it was kind of a funny, sloppy but funny movie about the U.S. in decline. But there's been repeated visitation of that idea over the years. The idea that we've hit peak America, that the country is economically, culturally, and international prestige-wise sliding in the standings. And then that brings us to this very recent report from RAND, which is the granddaddy of think tanks. It's been around for decades. And the report just kind of starts from the assumption that, the U.S. has passed its peak and asks, can it be brought back to life? And the report's called The Sources of Renewed National Dynamism. And it's just kind of remarkable, first of all, that RAND, which is this real establishment think tank, starts from the assumption that we've hit peak America, we're past our prime, we're sliding down relative to China, we're losing productivity, we're losing national income, we're losing our competitive standing, and that we have to do something about it. In and of itself, that's remarkable. And then we go on from there to what they want to do about fixing that situation.
You still there, JD?
Yes.
Okay, so how do you feel about it personally, JD? Do you see the American decline?
You know, it's the thing about a country being in decline is that you don't know until after the fact. So, because countries go through troubled periods, we're definitely going through a troubled period. I mean, we know that our politics are not just polarized, but increasingly violent. We know that our government is corrupt and untrustworthy. We know that there's some slippage economically, actually quite a lot of slippage economically, and that the U.S. is prevailing at this point to a certain extent, basically because it's the tallest midget left around. Everybody else is doing worse, including China, by the way, which, the idea that we're sliding relative to China was a big concern a few years ago and is less of one now. But the U.S. is definitely troubled. Whether that means we're actually in decline in an absolute sense is something that we're going to have to judge in the rearview mirror decades from now, a century from now. All we can know now is we're going through a troubled patch and we don't know where it's taking us. But it does give an opportunity for ideologues. It gives an opportunity for political opportunists and true believers to try to leverage what's obviously the troubled world around us to pitch their ideological snake oil. And unfortunately, that's where these Rand authors go. They take three case studies of countries that they say were in decline at the time, which is Britain in the 1840s and 50s, the US in the 1890s, and late Cold War Soviet Union. And they look at reforms that these countries undertook at the time in order to try to save themselves. Now, the Soviet Union is now an entry in history books, so obviously that didn't work. But it's also kind of questionable whether the Britain in the 1840s and 50s and the US in the 1890s were actually in decline. And they admit that fact. They concede that there's really no way of knowing whether Britain was in decline, whether the U.S. was in decline, because the countries, both of them, got more powerful after the fact. So, did their preferred reforms, the reforms they say these countries undertook, did that actually change anything? Maybe it actually hurt these countries. Who knows? Because those countries did not collapse afterwards. It's a counterfactual. And that is a big problem with their argument, is because they're real big fans of the progressive movement. And they tout that as kind of a model for the U.S. reviving itself during this current period of assumed decline. But that only is a good model if the progressive movement actually saved the U.S. in the 1890s. And there's actually a lot of evidence that the progressive movement did damage to the U.S., that it hampered economic liberty, that it promoted pseudoscientific racism, that it kind of created this ethnic hierarchy among peoples and basically promoted authoritarianism. So maybe it accelerated the decline that the Rand authors are worried about now. Maybe it saved nothing, even if we allow that perhaps the U.S. was in decline in the 1890s, which isn't clear at all.
So, is the ideological snake oil that the Rand Corporation is trying to sell us a reinvigoration of the progressive era? Are they trying to essentially say that what we really need is a revival of neo-Wilsonianism or neo-Rooseveltianism? That we need more leaders like Woodrow Wilson and Franklin Delano Roosevelt to step in and have a massive works project, more NRA, more spending? Is the problem that we're not spending enough through the government? Is that what their solution is?
It does seem to be. I mean, they're very clearly enamored of the progressive era. They don't allow for much in the way of, retrospective doubt about what the progressives did. They seem to think of it as a model for national revival. And that's even with them conceding that we don't know that the U.S. would have been in decline, would have gone away in the absence of progressive reforms. They just assume that the progressive reforms are good things, that they probably did good for the U.S., except that there really are other experts. I mean, I pointed to Illiberal Reformers, which is a book that came out in 2017. It was written by a Princeton University economic historian. And he looked at the progressive movement and he said it did an enormous amount of damage to our liberty. Economically, culturally, socially, it elevated the government to an authoritarian position. Not as authoritarian as some of its advocates, like Woodrow Wilson, would have liked, but certainly it's not a model that Thomas C. Leonard, the author of this book, would have wanted us to emulate. And it's one that makes it troubling when you see people touting the progressive era as a model for national revival at a time of assumed national decline. Clearly, they're trying. They're enamored of it. They want to revive the idea of progressive reforms, but there's not really strong evidence that the country was in decline during the period that they cite. There's no evidence that it was the progressive movement that revived the country during that period of presumed decline, and there's no evidence, actually counter evidence, that it would help us rather than hurt us if we would revive the progressive movement now.
We're speaking to JD Tuccilli. He's a writer at Reason Magazine about his article, Experts Wonder, Is America Truly in Decline? The subheading, The Cure to National Decline Might Be Part of the Disease. Now, what about our snake oil, JD? I mean, why can't we be why can't we take opportunity in the crisis? What about our ideas of extreme or radical liberalism, the extreme radical libertarianism, the ideas of limited government, economic freedom. Why aren't we taking advantage of these crises, JD? Shouldn't we?
We absolutely should be. And I would argue, of course, I'm a libertarian. I believe that liberty is the better way to go. We ought to be. I mean, you certainly have marketing departments for other ideologies, such as this Rand report, trying to take advantage of the situation and saying this is the way to go.
Yeah, our marketing departments are rather underfunded. There's Reason Magazine, there's me, the Wake Up America show, and there's a few other ones. The right-leaning populists have really overtaken us in terms of messaging for anti-economic freedom when it comes to free trade, but we're a little underfunded here, JD.
I would say underfunded, undermanned. I'd love to see us not so overwhelmed, and we really ought to be taking advantage of it to a greater extent than we are. I'd also argue that even if we're wrong, let's say that we don't have the solution to the country's woes. The nice thing about libertarianism is that we don't jam it down people's throats. The progressive movement is a kind of cod oil liver treatment for everybody. Everybody has to swallow it. It's imposed from the top down. Libertarian ideas at their best are leave people alone to thrive and find their own way. And if it doesn't work, well, different people can try different things. We don't force it on people from the top down. So it has that advantage going for it, which I would say is an enormous advantage. But we ought to be taking advantage of the situation because, first of all, I think we're right. If the U.S. is in decline, and we certainly know that it's troubled whether or not it's in decline, I would say they're giving people more liberty, allowing them more range of action to make their own choices would reduce the tensions that we see in our society, would reduce interfactional combat, and would also allow for different experiments in thriving. And something at the end may well come through that would help to reverse the troubles and potentially to reverse national decline if that's what we're seeing around us.
The thing that irks me the most about the beef that we have with right-wing populists when it comes to issues like economics or international trade is that many of these millionaires and billionaires who are for raising tariffs made their billions by exploiting international trade. I mean, listen, I'm voting for Donald Trump this fall because I find him to be much more appealing than Joe Biden. I've got a child on the way, so I'm concerned about the future of our country. But I own a Donald Trump tie, and it says made in Bangladesh. A lot of people give me hell because some of the products that I sell at my merchandise shop come from overseas, but I'm not going to not take advantage of the system of international free trade that, at least for as long as it exists, to try and enrich myself when the people who are telling me that I shouldn't do it have made their backs on the millions of,
Hey, Austin, the sound got garbled again.
Yeah. Can you, is it clearing up, JD?
Yeah, there's clearing up.
It just seems like so many of the elites in this country want to pull up the ladder for the rest of us after they got rich off of a system of capitalism. Now they want to force us into a system where we can't compete with many of these big producers. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. And look, I don't plan on voting for Trump, but honestly, when it comes to tariffs, there's nothing to choose between him and Biden. They're both protectionists. And the fact of the matter is, the low cost stuff, the toys, the cheap stuff, the ties in most cases, they're not coming back to the U.S. because a lot of them are labor intensive. They're low margin. Production in the U.S. manufacturing is actually it's going along pretty healthily, but it's going along at high levels with complex stuff, heavy machinery, and also a lot of automation. Those jobs aren't coming back. Robots are going to do that work for to a large extent. But the people who tout the protectionism know that it's popular to push the idea that we're going to go back to that factory job, paying for the family of four in the 900 square foot house. That's the vision of 1955. And we're not reviving that period because the world doesn't go back to where it was in the past. You can have manufacturing in the U.S., but you can't revive some imagined golden era in the past. That's really what the populists are trying to peddle, even as they make money off the realities of international economics. That doesn't mean things aren't going to change. They will. The just-in-time stocking that we've seen for the last couple of decades has gone away because it's too easy to disrupt that. There's going to be more inventory that's going to raise costs somewhat. But the idea that high tariffs are going to make things better economically is nonsense. People made their money big fortunes off of free trade. And that opportunity should remain available to everybody else.
There we go. We're speaking to JD Tuccilli about the decline of the United States. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. You can send us a text at 573-319-1586. Again, the text lines are open at 573-319-1586. JD, I know you're not a fan of Donald Trump. He is going to be speaking at the Libertarian Party's national convention. I know you're an anarchist, so maybe you don't vote, but were you tempted to vote for the Libertarian Party this cycle, if at all? What are your thoughts on Trump appearing at the Libertarian Party's convention? Yeah, just quick shot on that. What are your thoughts?
My opinion of Trump aside, the idea of having the standard bearer of a competing political party speak at your convention strikes me as bizarre. I don't get it. It just doesn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense if they had Biden in there. It wouldn't make sense if they had RFK Jr. in there. Now that he has an independent ballot access effort going on, Libertarian Party, honestly, is a hot mess right now. And I don't plan on voting for any of those presidential candidates that I see at this time. I usually do vote. I usually have voted Libertarian. I don't plan on voting this year because I don't see a viable candidate on the ballot. And if the Libertarians aren't going to promote their own options, aren't going to take the opportunity to really hunt out a viable standard bearer for the party, I don't see that it's going to have much to offer in the near term or perhaps at all going forward.
JD, for years, I was a member of the Libertarian Party for about a decade. I was involved heavily in activism. As you know, I competed for their presidential nomination. And what I saw from Donald Trump before he was president was flashing a lot of warning signs, things saying like he was for universal health care and things like that. But then when he actually became president, he actually governed a little bit more to the right than I expected. And the economy was far better off. Gas prices were low, and the world was definitely more peaceful than it is now under Joe Biden. Do you like a lot of libertarians still see right and left in this election as equal, or can you admit that Donald Trump would be at least a little bit better for libertarian ideas than Joe Biden would? Is it a wash in your mind? Because I feel like there's a lot of intellectual dishonesty out there because of Trump derangement syndrome, JD. I mean, how do you analyze that and these two competing administrations?
Well, I would say that term one of Trump was better than term one of Biden, or Biden's hollow shell, which is probably what we have as a president right now. Animated and occupied by his aides. The thing is, I don't think Trump is ideological at all. I think that he was a vehicle also, kind of as Biden is now, for the policies preferred by the people around him. And during his first term, he was very much surrounded by, to a large extent, free marketeers, people with some good ideas. I was very happy with a good number of his judicial picks. I don't know how he's going to operate in term two. I don't think he's going to surround himself with the same people. There seems to be, there's a lot of vindictiveness in our politics across the board. It's not just Trump. I suspect and fear that a fair amount of term two will be dedicated to getting back at the people who pounded on him and kind of made his life a misery during the last several years. So unless he were to pick as well as he did in terms of the aides that were around him for term one, I don't think we can even know what term two is going to be like. American politics now are not sorted according to the ways we remember the past of a free marketish Republican Party and a central leftish Democratic Party. Things have shifted rather dramatically, and it's very hard to predict how either party or the candidates of either party are going to govern at this point because the old models no longer apply. I just don't know what to expect of Trump or Biden in the second term.
See, my thinking is that the possibility that because he would have nothing to lose and because he's under so many indictments that even if he were to act as a bull in a proverbial china shop, that in itself would be an improvement, right? A president who comes in and starts beating everyone over the head with a frying pan, to me, would definitely be an improvement over the sort of dull, gray, bureaucratic march towards communism that the United States appears to be on at this moment. The push for what the Rand Corporation would like to have us do, total progressive policies, and a restoration of the United States's commitments overseas, which President Trump definitely is not interested in. It was refreshing to hear a president say things like, if NATO wants to have the United States be involved in European affairs, then they need to step up and pay more for their own defense. I mean, at least from a foreign policy perspective, JD, and American libertarians seem to be almost solely focused on foreign policy at this point, to the detriment of any other issues. Primarily because of the conflict between Israel and Gaza, but Ukraine and Russia, another one. I mean, the foreign policy that came out of the Trump administration was demonstrably superior to the Biden administration, no?
It certainly motivated or helped to motivate European countries to take seriously the idea that perhaps they ought to buy the occasional tank, maybe box cartridges from time to time to arm their own armed forces. And yes, to that extent, that is refreshing. The disruption I'd like to see, if it's not going to happen for obvious reason, is a Javier Milei type come in. And
yes,
the Argentines were desperate, and they were fortunate enough to have a Javier Milei available. I don't know that Trump is that sort. And when I say that I don't know what to expect of Trump in a second term, I'm quite serious. I think that a repeat of the first term would be an improvement over Biden. But I don't know that that's what we're going to get. And it's very hard for me to forecast. My crystal ball on politics broke back in 2016.
Same here, JD. Boy, I really love your writings. I'm subscribed to your newsletter, The Rattler, which I highly recommend. Keeps me informed. I'm always checking reason.com to see whenever a new JD to Chili piece is dropping over there. And so is there anything else that you'd like to share or plug? How can people sign up for The Rattler, JD? Let us know before you go.
Absolutely. I mean, I've got a piece on the front page of Reason today talking about the expiration of the tax cuts that Trump passed, what Trump pushed for and were passed when he was in office. They had a sunset clause built into them and they expire at the end of 2025, meaning that our taxes are set to automatically go up. So that's something to go in and read. And then if you want to sign up for a newsletter, embedded in the course of that article is a sign-up form, costs nothing, and you can receive my stuff right in your inbox.
JD, you're one of the best writers in the entire libertarian movement. We're grateful to have your contributions. Thanks for getting up so early and being so generous with your time today. We hope to talk to you again really soon. Have a great week.
You too. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much. Let's give JD to Chili a round of applause. What say you? Great interview. What do you think? Well, thank you so much to all of our listeners. People like Joni Rankin, Levin214, Quest Fanning, so many others who donated this morning. Joni, I saw that you bought our Calvin the Coolest President over at apforlibertyshop.com. You guys rock. We have unlocked the bonus doc. So enjoy the bonus content, and then we'll be right back to say goodbye.
Maintains a preference for privacy in his political engagements, focusing instead on his acting career and personal growth. Russell's commitment to libertarian principles is consistent with his long-standing support for constitutional rights, especially the Second Amendment, which he often champions. His journey into libertarianism was influenced by historical figures and personal experiences that shaped his views on government and individual freedoms. Russell continues to be a unique voice in Hollywood, navigating his career while staying true to his libertarian beliefs, which he believes align with the foundational ideals of America.
What do you guys think? Was today's bonus content worth it? Hey? There you go. So this week's theme, celebrities who are libertarians. Today's was Jack Russell. Kurt Russell. Wake up, AP. It's Monday morning. What can I say? We're glad to have you here. Thanks so much for tuning out. Tuning out. You're tuning out. We're tuning in. Tune in, turn on, drop out. The Wake Up America show, of course, brought to you in part by AP4libertyshop.com. Don't forget to exit through the Grift Shop today. Get yourself our brand new Javier Milei Synthwave t-shirt, the Chainsaw of Freedom. Javier Milei Synthwave tee now in shop. Check it out, AP4libertyshop.com. You can only get these kinds of designs exclusively at AP4libertyshop.com. That's AP, the number 4. AP4libertyshop.com. Here you see Javier Milei with his signature chainsaw. Viva la libertad, carajo. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. We appreciate you all very much. Without you, the Wake Up America show doesn't happen. Thanks for unlocking the bonus content. Thanks for hanging out with us live. Of course, if you ever miss an episode of the Wake Up America show in the morning live, you can always listen to the audio podcast version later. Did you guys know that we do upload the audio from each show? You can download it on Spotify, iTunes, on Podbean, or wherever you get your podcasts. Just type the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson in. And let me tell you a little something else. Did you know that you can actually rate the Wake Up America show on iTunes? Yeah, you can go to iTunes and you can give my podcast 5 stars and a little written review underneath. Let people know how much you really enjoy it. Help us to spread the word about the ideas of economic freedom or personal liberty. So why don't you open up your iPhone, head on over to iTunes, go to the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson audio podcast, subscribe to it over there, download the episodes that you might have missed, give it 5 stars and a nice little written review. What do you say? Can we do it? All right. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow right here on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Expanse of time, a year might seem like a mere moment, but oh, what a year it's been. In September 2022, Austin and Stephanie Peterson embarked on a journey to wake up.